It's almost 6 million.
Okay, we would like to welcome everyone and call to order the study meeting of the West Valley City Council. It is May 9th, 2023. We are beginning at 4:30 p.m. and we are in the multi-purpose room of West Valley City Hall. We have Councilman Fitzsimmons, who is asked to be excused. At the table, we have Councilman Nordfeld, Councilman Christensen, Councilman Whetstone, Councilman Harmon, Councilman Kane, and myself. Our city manager, Mr. Pyle, is joining us via Zoom, and Ms. Kamek, our city recorder, is joining us at the table. I will now turn the time to the council for our minutes of May 2nd, 2023 for discussion or a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and 3 seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those stand approved. We have canceled tonight's regular meeting because we had nothing on the agenda. We'll turn to our first public hearing, and I'll turn the time to Mr. Pyle for application SA 1-2023. Mr. Pyle? Yeah.
I think Steve Lehman will be presenting.
Okay, we'll just ask Mr. Lehman to come to the mic.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. It's good to be with you. This first application is a request from Chris Tomadakis to simply adjust a common property line. He owns both of these properties. A few years ago, we were able to handle this at a staff level by lot line adjustment. The legislature changed that law in 2021, requiring any lot in a recorded subdivision to go through the plat amendment process. So this property is 2 lots, as I mentioned, located just north of the Utah Salt Lake Canal. One lot is in the Pheasant Park subdivision. The other lot is in the Hunter Hills #2 subdivision. The next phase or the next slide is just a zoomed in version. So you'll see the common property line between these 2 lots. Mr. Tomadakis would like to shift that line 7 feet to the east. We just took a couple of photographs for illustration. The first slide is just of the existing home that Mr. Tomadakis owns. You'll see off to the left side or the east side of this house, he's poured an extended driveway. He would like to do a detached garage to the back of the two-story home there. And so that's the purpose for adjusting the property line. The next slide is just down where the common line would be, right where that little mini track hoe is. And then the next slide is just of a zoomed in version. And then I believe the last slide is of the subdivision plat itself. So you'll see just a little jog right at the bottom of the subdivision. That's the 7 feet that line will move to the east. Both of these lots will retain 8,000 and 7,000 square feet respectively. They both meet the frontage requirements as well. So that is our report.
Okay, any questions from the council? Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to your next application, SA2 2023.
Thank you. This application is a request from Roman Frazier. Mr. Frazier developed the old Kmart site on 5600 West. And as a result of that subdivision, there were 6 lots that were platted. The larger piece here that you see is lot 3. The smaller little red square, I'll have Eric go to the next slide, is an old car wash that I believe is still active. Mr. Frazier had the opportunity to purchase that property and would like to absorb that piece into lot 3, thus the plat amendment for lot 3 of the Mountain View Business Plaza subdivision. Just to the south of that is the Cane's Restaurant, and also to the south of that is the Krispy Kreme. Mr. Frazier developed both of those. Just a few illustrations. This is the car wash that's on 5600 West. Mr. Frazier would like to keep that in operation until he finds a more suitable use for this property. He would like a better use than the car wash. And as you all know, we're getting multiple car washes in the city. So I think he's fine dropping that out. But and the next slide, I think, is just along the frontage of 56. The last slide is of the plat itself. So we're taking 2 pieces, one a lot, one parcel, and consolidating that to create one large lot. That's our report.
Council for any questions?
I had a question. I was just curious if the amendment would allow for an access point between those two, the Walmart to the north and back.
Yeah, with this plat amendment, no. We're just simply amending the plat. They meet all of the criteria to do that. It would have been, and I think we actually addressed that issue when the subdivision came before the council in 2019. And the two weren't able to come to an agreement. It would have been a nice thing, having driven out there and going to the Chick-fil-A or whatever. It would have been nice to have that cross, but that's not a condition that we're able to impose here.
I think we've asked a couple of times when the development has been increasing out there and there hasn't been a way to do it. So,
Yeah, I spoke to the owner of that Chick-fil-A and he said he would love it. It gets so congested around.
it does, yeah. But I think when the Walmart went in, we asked for
Yeah, it's
cross
been
access
it's been
and
a question for years
Yeah.
and years. And Chick-fil-A is undergoing a new renovation, so it would have been an ideal time, but just getting that connection is something that we're not able to do with this application.
and we did ask in the past. They just couldn't reach an agreement, so. Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. We will now go to application Z1 2023 filed by Samuel Wright. He's requesting a zone change from A minimum 1/2 acre lots to manufacturing. Mr. Pastrick has this.
Thank you, Mayor. I will share my screen here and explain what's being requested. All right, so the property in question here is 7103 West Gates Avenue. It's just under an acre. And you can see the property highlighted in red on this image. So the property's actually been used for many years as a business called Backyard Auto. It's an auto wrecking yard. It's actually a non-conforming use. that's been there for many years. The current zoning is agriculture and the requested zone is the manufacturing zone. So here's just a close-up of that. So just to kind of give you some context, you have a property that's basically vacant on the east and west sides. There's residential to the south for homes that are along Schuler Avenue. And then you have on the north side of Gates Avenue is just a fenced-in storage yard. This map here just shows the zoning. So you have the gray area would be the manufacturing zoning. And then the green is where we have the agricultural zone. So you can see, over time, we've had rezones along the south side of Gates Avenue to where it's transitioning to manufacturing. So originally it was all agricultural, and over the last several years, we've had several rezones. For example, the 7-Eleven on the corner at 72, and then the property to the east, and then you can see the 3 lots further east along Gates Avenue have been rezoned in recent years. So in this map here, I think just helps show some context with addresses as we move to the development agreement that's proposed here. So the property with the hatching is the property in question. Again, you can see the gray areas being the manufacturing zoning and the green again being the agricultural zoning along the south side of Gates Avenue. So what's proposed here, and I'll go to the concept plan. So to orient you here, north is on the right side of the screen. So the building that is at the bottom of the site plan is actually the existing building, which is, if I go back to the aerial image, this building here. So on 7079. And actually, Mr. Wright originally developed this property, but then since sold that property. So the concept plan and what Mr. Wright owns is actually 7091, which is already zone manufacturing. And then he also owns 7103, which is not zone manufacturing. So to go back to the concept plan now, these 3 buildings would be across all 3 of those parcels. So again, with this one on the east end or the bottom of this image is existing, and then these 2 buildings here, which are are proposed to be about 8,400 square feet each, would be new buildings. So just some images here to provide some context. So this is looking south at the existing backyard auto business, the wrecking yard. This is looking east along Gates Avenue. So again, the property here is on the right-hand side of the screen. This would be looking west back towards 7200 West. The property, again, looking south. Another image of the wrecking yard. This is the storage lot on the north side of Gates Avenue. So this would be what Mr. Wright developed a number of years ago. And again, he no longer owns this, but what he's proposing would be to do 2 buildings that are basically similar to this building to the west. So this would be the vacant lot that's already zone manufacturing. Again, looking a little bit further east along Gates Avenue. And then this would be the home that is east of that existing industrial building. I believe that's the last slide. So I'll go back to the concept plan here. So with this rezone request, there is a development agreement that's included that the Planning Commission recommended. And just to kind of highlight some of the items that are included in that. First of all, just to point out that for the 2 properties that have that were recently rezoned, both of those included a development agreement, which included things like restrictions on hours and restrictions on uses, and a few other considerations. So in like manner, Planning Commission suggested a development agreement here. And so the first item in that agreement would be to limit the access for the property to just 1 new curb cut along Gates Avenue. The applicant had originally proposed 2 curb cuts. They're suggesting 1, or this is actually something from Public Works, so they were suggesting only 1 access. The second point in the development agreement, I think it's helpful to have this image again. So essentially what's stated here is that the applicant would install improvements beginning where Gates Avenue connects to the frontage road and then down to the west side of 7055 West. Now, he doesn't own all those properties, and so the agreement essentially says that while he would put in those improvements across those properties, for those that he doesn't own, the city would reimburse him for the improvements across those properties, okay? The third point is just including some kind of an entry feature over the building, similar to what he did for the first building at 7079. The fourth item is having some hours restrictions, which what's proposed here would be the same as what was done for the properties at 7055 through 7011. You may recall that was the property that had the stucco business that was proposed for a rezone there. So that was the same hours restriction. And I should clarify here too, and sorry, there's a lot of details on this one. While the rezone request is just for 7003, the development agreement would address both 7103 and 7091 because he owns both parcels. Another item in the development agreement, there's a couple of exceptions requested. So number 5 would be that along the west side of the property, normally between an agricultural property and an industrial property, you'd have a 20-foot setback. But because eventually the plan is that would go commercial or industrial, he's asking that the setback be 10 feet instead of 20. So that's an exception that's requested. Another thing that's actually allowed in the code is normally, again, along that west side, that's currently the property to the west that's vacant. Normally, you would have a masonry wall separating a commercial and industrial property from a residential property. But there is a provision in the code that says if the city's plan anticipates future commercial and industrial use, then we can do a chain link fence or some other type of fencing along that west side.
Is the
Yes.
lot to the west,
To the west.
but is it already being used as residential or is it kind of a commercial use anyway?
There's no residential use on that currently.
Okay.
So they would still be required to put in the masonry wall on the south side. This would just be along the west side. And then the last is there's a number of use limitations to where the uses that would be prohibited would include those uses that are prohibited in the light industrial zone. And to clarify why that's there, we do have a light industrial zone, but this particular property doesn't meet the minimum area for that zone. And so that's why, again, similar to other properties along here, we have those types of use restrictions. So just thought it'd be helpful to go through what's proposed in the development agreement. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I just had a question on the complaint from the resident about the noise. Are there noise restrictions when the manufacturing is adjacent to residential?
Not specifically to when you have that situation of residential next to industrial. We do have just noise restrictions generally that apply after 10 p.m. or before 7 a.m. But that wouldn't be specific to this situation.
So I thought Mr. Pyle said that if the noise was too much, no matter what time of day, if it came into your house, that was still a violation.
Right. So there's essentially two standards. You have one, and I don't recall off the top of my head, but one that's, if something reaches a certain level, again, it's regardless of what time of day.
Decibels. Yeah.
Right. And then the other applies to, those evening hours where if, you can clearly hear it, at your property line, then that's a problem.
Okay. So there are restrictions somewhat on the sound level anyway,
Right.
if they call it in.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay. Doesn't look like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll go to our ordinances. We have ordinance 23-14, which is changing our municipal code to adopt all of the international building codes. And we'll turn the time over to Mr. Thompson from our building department.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Jerry Thompson and I am your Chief Building Official. With the passage of House Bills 407 and House Bill 532 in the recent legislation, the state of Utah has adopted the 2021 edition of what's affectionately called the Family of I Codes. We're excited for this change going forward, and as such, we need to change and amend our code to reflect this likewise. So this is just that normal process that we do once every 3 years. With that, do you have any questions?
Did anyone have questions? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That
Thank
was
you.
easy. All right. I'm losing my papers. We'll now go to our adoption of the capital projects list and turn the time over to Mr. Pyle for that one.
Thank you, ma'am. This list that we've assembled, we've discussed in a couple of meetings before, and the thrust or the idea here is to adopt by resolution a series of projects which we would then be bringing back to you in the normal purchasing process, whatever that might consider, whether that's a contract, whether it's a budget opening, what might be both. But the point of the resolution is this would be adopting a list and giving the council knowledge of what has been prioritized and recommended to the staff, and then the staff would know that the council had approved moving forward with that list. It's not exclusive to anything else happening in the city, but it would give us direction for this particular list. Almost all of the items that are on the list have been discussed previously, going back a number of months, but there are 3 on here that were not on the list as I first proposed it within the last few weeks. Those 3 are the Dowda Puzzle and the Fazio Park fence replacement, which we did talk about last week. But then since that discussion, we also had one more request. IT noticed that their storage system, this is file servers, that kind of data storage equipment, had not been approved as a program mod and also was not on this list. They brought it to my attention that this is something that's going to be needed here in the near future. So I added that to the list as well. That item could be purchased in a lease purchase format, and we would just go back and fund that operationally through the next little while, probably a 2, 3, or 4 year lease purchase. But I thought, given the council's preference and the need for the particular item, I would submit it on this list for consideration. So with that, ma'am, other than that, if we have questions on individual projects, that's my presentation for the list.
Okay, thank you. Any questions concerning the list?
Just maybe, well, a little more detail would be nice. One thing I have on Stonebridge Golf Equipment, 1.1 million in mowers and equipment. Does that include? I know last year you talked about the bridges that were about $1 million. So I'm just trying to.
Yeah, great question. And although detail to the individual items and equipment have been provided in the past, I do apologize. It was kind of tough to get everything summarized in a 4-column format here. So I was kind of trying to balance between the two. But that's a great question. Yeah, this amount would provide that golf course equipment for both courses between Stonebridge and the Ridge. It would not include things like the bridge replacements or any kind of actual facility. It would only be for stuff like mowers, other types of equipment that they use for maintenance tasks there at both golf courses. Oh, also, if desired on that, because that is a good list, that's a good question. I'm certainly happy to get that list provided for you more specifically before next week, just so you can see what those items are.
More detail would be great.
Did you hear that? More detail
I
would be
did.
awesome. Okay.
I did. Thanks, ma'am. I'm sure Nancy's taking a note right now there. She has actually provided that to me in the past, so it won't be hard to give you.
Okay, seeing no other questions from the council, my one question is, the 70,000 for Fazio fence, is that a valid new bid? Because last time, 5 years ago, was 80,000.
Yeah, that's also a great question. That is based on Nancy's number she gave me as late as a year ago, but it has been a little while, so it could possibly be more. She's out getting an up-to-date bid on that project as we speak.
Okay, do you know when we'll have that?
I don't know. Nancy, do you have word on that?
I probably by the end of, I'll try and get it this week, actually, so you have that information before next Tuesday.
Yeah, because I would rather
We've been
not.
working on it, so it shouldn't be too hard.
Okay, I just don't want to approve it without having the correct number in there.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, ma'am. I would point out that really the main purpose of this resolution is just to get the list itself examined, looked at, sort of approved by the council. Even in the case of that one, let's say it was 10 or 20% higher, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. And you would see the number on a contract or whatever other procurement requirements we would have coming back anyway. But yes, we'll try to get that updated number as quick as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Yeah, I have one more question, Wayne. Why don't we go one by one when we just, as we go?
Well,
Sorry, you just want me to list through each item and kind of describe them?
Maybe like parking lot and maybe later you can do later or something.
Yeah, I can do that for sure. Let me run down them. So I talked about the first three. The fourth one is 2700 West. This would include sidewalk and right-of-way improvements that are going along and extending the project that we currently have just finished up. You'll see all those trees and walls and sidewalk improvements out there. This would extend that between 3850 South and 4100 South. Let's see, the next one, 40th West improvements. This one is prioritized because it's the largest and longest standing street improvement project that we have that we cannot seem to get federal or other type of grant funding towards the project. So we're really trying to get this one moving along. The $1 million won't replace the street, but it will do some of the critical ones repair wise and improvement kind of in a phased fashion there. Hopefully being able to get more money to work on the overall project later on. But this would at least get us moving in the right direction. The street sign project is the next one. We've talked about that in the past a number of times. Let's see, maintenance,
Wayne,
concrete.
Can I stop
Sorry,
you on
what?
that one real quick?
Yeah,
So we're gonna do the entire city?
that's correct.
So how much did we just spend on the ones that faded really fast?
Those were done piecemeal over time, so I would not have one number for that. I could give you, well, that probably wouldn't be very helpful. I was going to say I could give you approximately a price per sign, but that multiplying, I have no idea how many signs we did. And that, again, it's not just done. That's been done, going back a decade or more. So that would be a hard number to come up with. On the other hand, now I can refer to Dan. I don't know if you've got any better information on that, Dan.
Price per sign really is about the same. We're just looking to change the materials and the specification and the way that signs are built so that they don't fade. So they've just been changed over time as we've had capital improvement projects and as the old signs have either been hit or have faded beyond recognition. So the price per sign that we paid in the past, which is generally probably about a couple $100 a sign, is about the same. The price is the same, but the way that we're doing them is different than we won't have the fading logos with the new layout.
Okay, my concern is if we're just gonna do the entire city and then they fade again, we don't seem to have any warranties or replacement coverage by the people making these, but they don't seem to be making us whole.
Well, we can bid them with a warranty. We can certainly do some kind of a request for proposal, depending on the the methodology that's used. These will be printed signs that, that actually can come with a warranty, whether it's a 3M or an Avery printing system. They are standing by that. So doesn't mean we're without risk. I mean, we certainly could, I don't know, get a bad batch, or it could not perform as stated, but
So when this comes back to council for approval in a regular meeting, can we have more detail about that?
sure.
Okay, that would be perfect. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I would note, we have talked about the warranty situation in not too far in the past. So I know there are a couple of options for that, as Dan spoke to.
Okay.
Let's see here. The next item was concrete repair at Centennial Softball Park. That'll be for score towers, bleachers, and restroom facilities. I would make warning that $200,000 isn't a lot of money towards that. It will allow some good repairs, but it's not going to replace everything, just maintaining expectations there. The next one is the parking lot at Woodledge Park, $80,000. This is just for asphalt replacement. And again, also, this one might be another one like the Fazio Park one. It might be a little more expensive than that at this point, but we're getting that rebid. Or do we have a current bid that's come in, Nancy?
Yes, as of a couple of months ago, and it actually came in just a little bit less than that.
Okay. All right, good. So we should be very close on that.
Yes, yes.
All right, golf course equipment we talked about already, and I'll get to that detailed list in the upcoming week. Public facilities, City Hall parking lot for $600,000. This one would replace all of the asphalt within the current City Hall parking lot. That's an important distinction to understand, because eventually in longer term, the parking lot as it currently is set up will also be incorporated into part of the parking lot that used to be on the America First lot over there, where we have some trees and concrete separation right now, curbing. That 600 would not cover that other work. It would only cover the work that's there in the current lot. So just keep that in mind in the future. Public facilities, fire station 74 and 75 is the next item. That one's pretty self-explanatory, interior remodels and mechanical equipment for $320,000. Public facilities, West Valley Theater. This is a interim level of renovation just for stuff that would need to be, well, actually needs to be done now. So that would be seating, carpeting, flooring, repainting in the amount of $400,000. Again, to this one, it's not like the theater can't operate without this. So you do have you have a little bit of a dilemma in that at some point, assuming that a major renovation is done of the theater or reconstruction, a lot of this work would probably end up having to be done again. So you hate on one hand to be spending that $400,000 now or that money for these repairs. On the other hand, we have no idea when that actually will be happening, and could be anywhere between 10 and $20 million from a reconstruction renovation project standpoint. So it's seems like we ought to move ahead with some of these repairs. And Jake has always been very good in the past to try to incorporate current repairs in future phased projects. So we would do our best on that, but that is a risk. Okay, the next item on the list, UCCC HVAC and interior remodeling items again. And then the last one is the City Hall fitness room renovation for $90,000, interior refinish. That has never been done from a remodeling standpoint as far back as I can remember. And that's the list.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna bring it up again, but maybe you can help me out when Crystal Avenue. How about, yeah. All kind of things in here, but I do wonder about Crystal Avenue. Is there any way we can put in that list?
So the Crystal Avenue project was presented last time. The sidewalk list was presented to the council. I think that's been something like 2 months ago. And there are two different Crystal Avenue versions. One is approximately $500,000. The other version is approximately $5 million. And the reason for that is the $500,000 version is basically only a walkway without any kind of drainage improvements on the street, as we've talked about before. The $5 million version incorporates a core and a lot of drainage improvements that would have to be done on the street there. The drainage situation in Chesterfield generally, and particularly on Crystal Avenue, is such that we would have to be doing those drainage improvements almost from level 0. So that project is one that the council would need to prioritize and give us direction as to which way to go. Dan is still trying to get grant funding, which you'll remember some of which was turned down, or there were some issues with it. I can't remember what was going on at the state and the federal level there. And we will continue to do so. But for now, that is not a ready project to go. So it's not on this list.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I have a question here.
Yep.
You help me understand a little bit on the difference. So we have the CIP fund balance and we have the general fund balance. Obviously, these expenses won't occur at the same time, but in the background, you indicate that the general fund balance is almost 25% of our annual operating budget. If these expenses were to occur, would that reduce that percentage? Or are we talking about a separate CIP?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is a separate fund balance. So the 8 million-ish that I've referred to, between 8 and 9 million over the last few months, is separate from the general fund unreserved fund balance at that 25%. So it would not affect that. Thank you.
So are there targets that we want to maintain the CIP fund balance and the general fund balance?
It's another great question. So I'll answer the more difficult one for you guys first. That's the general fund balance discussion. That's a discussion the council's had many times over the years, and strictly as a policy discussion. Various council members have advocated as high as whatever the maximum allowable limit is under state guidelines and law, or 12%, I believe, is the lowest that council members have advocated. So that is a policy discussion for the council. Obviously, we're way above that 12%, which was kind of indicated back around 2010, I want to say, as a goal then. Coming out of the Great Recession, we weren't even to that level. On the CIP level, again, the situation here is a little bit different in that we have recently been able to put together this CIP fund balance at the level that it was, but that's a highly unusual situation and probably won't happen again for the foreseeable future unless there were other operational decisions made on the general fund side that would build up that CIP balance. What normally we would run in the CIP fund is probably more like somewhere between $1 or $2 million. So the answer to your question then on what should be an appropriate CIP fund balance is, again, a policy question, just like the general fund balance discussion. My recommendation here is really solely based on the idea that, one, the CIP balance, as I just mentioned, is usually around $1 or $2 million anyway. It's really not that much, and this would keep us at that level. And two, these expenditures, which are, again, some of the most needed, as identified by the departments throughout the city, we could get those done. We wouldn't have to bond for them. There'd be no debt associated with them, and they would not affect the general fund balance. So that's the thinking behind the recommendation. But you all, of course, are we're more than happy to take any changes to the list or reductions or however the council would like to handle that. We simply are bringing that list again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, so that we have understanding at the staff level and the councils have the chance to make that discussion.
Yes.
Just, you mentioned that our normal CIP balance is 1 or 2 million and our current CIP balance is 8 or 9 million. Can you help us understand why we're at 8 or 9 million now? And
yes,
next year you're expecting 1 or 2 and for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason we're at that level that we are now is largely due to the inflows of federal funding that happened during the COVID pandemic era, which we were able to leverage through correct and guidelined expenditures within the operational budgets, which then freed up money to be placed in the fund balances. And therefore, think of it as kind of a lump in the snake, so to speak. I don't foresee that happening again anywhere in the foreseeable future. And therefore, that's why I would see that fund balance level going back to what's a more normal level.
Okay, thank you. Any
Yeah,
other questions?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't see any more questions.
You bet.
All right, we'll now move on to 2368. An agreement between West Valley City and Larson, Nash and Larson Law Firm. We'll turn the time over to Ms. Cottle.
Thanks, Council. Nicole Cottle, Assistant City Manager. It's an exciting night. So Backyard Auto was my first loss and my first win. It went like this: my first win and my first loss as a lawyer. So I was excited to see that tonight. That was a tough loss. We went all the way to appeals court, and it's been there a long time. So it was an exciting night for me. Okay, this is, as you're all aware, having a justice court. We've talked about this a little bit in the past. We are required by the federal constitution and subsequently by our state legislature to provide for indigent defense for appropriate legal services for folks who can't afford lawyers. So as part of having justice court, we do that. We have a unique situation and what I think is a really important situation in West Valley with regards to Larson. And that is when we talk about the justice court, when we started the justice court all those many years ago, part of the reason was access to justice and having folks able to be in a court in their own city and to have those services here and be able to access those. One of the great benefits that Larson provides to us is an office here in the city. So they do provide that same close proximity and access to the folks who utilize our justice court. As we endeavored to renew this contract, there have been also some interesting changes I think you've heard about in the legal world in Utah. A lot of national firms have come into the state. So how much lawyers charge these days has gone up quite a bit. When we first got their proposal, it was some $300,000 more than this. And as we talked about that, we worked through that system together and we got the contract down to what you see it today. So we were excited about that opportunity. They value our relationship, as do we value theirs. They do great work for us. I have in the contract, they're required to report to us quarterly, and just by interest, for interest's sake, they average about 800 cases a month that they handle for us. Of course, subsequently, our prosecutors handle about that many as well. Not everyone that comes to our court gets indigent defense services, but we do have a judge who offers that to almost everyone. So it is often that we see that. Of course, they still have to meet the metrics. So even though one of our judges might say you may qualify for that, they still have to meet the requirements for indigency in order to qualify. So it's about 800. They have 7 lawyers that they keep on staff that they utilize for our court exclusively. And they make sure that their cases are handled timely. The 6th Amendment and the Indigent Defense Commission has certain standards that the state that we comply with and that we make sure Larson complies with. And so unless there are any questions, then today I recommend that we go ahead and enter into this contract. I will say one other thing as an aside. You'll see this contract is set up as a 5-year contract. Our last contract was also a 5-year contract that provides for consistency and gives the opportunity for longevity and also helps with the price a little bit. When they're secure in a time frame, helps us keep the prices down. So
Great. Okay, any questions from the council?
There's a clause that's a 7% increase annually. Is that what it was 5 years ago? I mean,
it was 4% 5 years ago. The way that we got to our deal here was we agreed to a escalator that is closer to what the world is providing than what we typically provide. So the world is providing a much steeper escalator to lawyers in the world. So we felt like that even the 7% was a good number based on what reality is. I will also add that there really is only one other firm that could potentially provide this, and they would have to significantly ramp up their lawyers. It's the firm that provides to the county. And when they had made a proposal on our last, they didn't make a formal proposal, but suggested their cost for our last contract, it was twice what this one is today. And so we do feel like we get a good service from Larson for a good price, but some of those factors go into play. And certainly the market in Utah has changed significantly for lawyers. That's another really significant point this year that Larson was arguing with us. So we recognize that.
The city has any kind of website, good website for the citizen in our city to look at or to use.
So that's all handled by the court, and it's handled right when their activity with regards to the court is occurring. That's how they're made aware. And oftentimes, well, every time Larson is actually, they have lawyers right there who handle that as well. So all of that information flows directly through the court. Yes, sir. It's a good question.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
All right, we have our consent agenda, which is the city manager's appointment of our Healthy Utah.
Ma'am, we did have one other item, 69.
Oh, I just clicked it off like we already did it.
No
I
problem.
had all the
Sorry.
information I needed. Okay, we have 2369 and that is Miss Dave. Sorry, Nancy.
No, that's perfectly fine. This will be short. So, yeah, so this resolution is to replace the furnace AC units at the Harmon Senior Recreation Center. Unfortunately, there was some vandalism and they're no longer working and it's getting hot. And, you know, it's obviously a facility that we want to make sure stays cool. Because of how this happened with the vandalism, the insurance does cover it, but there's a $25,000 deductible. The insurance will reimburse the city back for the difference, which would be just over $32,000. So the most responsible bid, lowest bid is through American Mechanical System Services. And they are on the state contract to do these services for us. So that is our recommendation to move forward and get those replaced.
Okay, any questions from the council?
Just are there steps to take to prevent the vandalism? Is that we
Great question. Yes.
get in or something?
Yeah, actually similar with some fencing. We're also changing the turf, natural turf areas to more rock and yeah, doing some things to prevent that. And we have seen improvement in activity since we've started making those changes, and also a few security cameras to help out. And our police department has been great to follow up with us as well on things there.
So this isn't on the roof. This is like a normal house AC that's on the
Correct.
ground just outside the building.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, no other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move to our consent agenda. And I'll turn the time over to Mr. Pyle. If you have anything to say, otherwise, does the council have any questions on any of them? You're still muted. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you want to
I didn't-
introduce anything?
No, these were all recommended by those that are associated with the Healthy West Valley Committee, so I don't have any actual comment on them other than one thing that is a little unusual is you'll notice that all of these are being appointed to the same term. There's a limit, I believe, of 2 years on the term, but the normal process of these committees when they first start up is various people will stay on or they'll leave and get reappointed or not. And after a little while, it does actually sort itself out from a staggering standpoint. But at least for the beginning, we start out with everybody on the same, or we are starting out with everybody on the same term.
Okay. Did everybody have a chance to look at the bios and have any questions?
Looks like there's only two, at least in their bios, that said they're citizens of the city.
Residents.
Like to see more of that.
We would too. We look for citizens, but where we drew from the different organizations, we sent their representative rather than necessarily a city representative or a city's resident.
Can we request next time that we?
We're working on it.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of like, bring it
All
up.
of them do work and serve people within the city though, so that's.
Yeah.
They are assigned within the city.
Kind of similar to the case in Taiwan long ago about we were trying to send students over to Taiwan but most of them is not basically is not in Westwood City. So I just wonder, is there any way we can find more people in our city that'd be very helpful? You know what I'm saying?
With the specifics of the members, many of them have specific degrees and things like that in public health and other things, and so they're serving the citizens of West Valley, but they might not be a citizen of West Valley or a resident. They're all citizens.
Mayor, if I can too, we do have a sign up sheet on our website. So if anybody's interested in volunteering for a board, they can, as any citizen of West Valley can say, hey, I'm interested in serving on Healthy West Valley. And we'll reach out to them once we receive that.
So is there a limit of how many participants can be on this committee? I know Clean and Beautiful has a cap, so I don't know if you have a cap on this one.
I don't remember if we had a cap when we made it a committee or not.
I don't recall either, but I can look.
Can you find that out for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm sure we have plenty of professionals in the city that work for equivalent companies. I don't know if it was just too focused on certain providers. So,
Yeah, I'll make sure I find that out.
okay, let's find that out and maybe I suggest people that like flowers to join the Clean and Beautiful all the time. So if you have a medical professional in your life, it might be good to have them sign up on the volunteer page. So,
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I remember that the Taiwanese at that time, I think is that we didn't want to do that anymore because of that reason.
right,
So I think maybe we just study from that case, try to figure out how to take this matter, just like we did with the Taiwanese
right.
before.
Okay, good suggestion.
Craig's watching and he said there's no cap, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions on that one? All right, we will move to our communications and we'll start with the Convention Tourism Assessment Area. And I think we wanted to bring them back just to answer questions. So do we need an introduction or can I just have them stand up and answer whatever questions you had?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, so let's
But I'm
go ahead and bring you up. Whichever one's speaking, who wants to be lambasted with questions?
Would you like us to come here?
Yeah, come to the mic. One at a time, and then if somebody has a better expertise, we can switch out. I think it's too confusing with two.
So Tyson Libert was here last time. My name is Caitlin Eskelson and I'm the president and CEO of Visit Salt Lake. I don't know exactly what the questions are. I think we got some governance questions and then some equitable use questions. But we did pull some initial figures related to West Valley City specifically and what Visit Salt Lake currently does for this specific region, because we know that that's of the most concern to you. And what we pulled is that last year in January, we hired a gentleman named Evan Bowerly. And he works out of the Chamber West office, but he works the Western region, but but you all have the most hotels here. So you're going to be the biggest beneficiaries. So last year he was able to book about 30,000 room nights. So exactly 29,842. And that brought in about 41,000 delegates, meaning attendance holistically, which would equate to about 30 million, very conservative estimate in direct delegate spending. So we actually have a calculator that we can put each delegate through based on what type of an event they're coming here for. And so that's kind of a conservative estimate. We also wanted to mention, and Clay Partain may have mentioned this previously, but a good example of what we could spend money on is an LPGA event that wants to come here in 2024. It's the Junior Amateur Open, and they want to come to Stonebridge. And I just want to mention that because I know that you are considering some capital improvements to Stonebridge. So when you talk about return on investment, we could get some money rolling back into that course to kind of parlay the investment. So those are just some anecdotes that I wanted to share, but we can certainly answer any questions regarding anything else that you might have.
Okay, any questions from the council?
I think, as I remember the discussion amongst the council, one of the possible questions we have is just, we hate to just say, yes, go ahead and not say any more.
Yes, yes.
So the governance aspect of it, and how is it governed and how is it?
Yep.
So you can tell us how you are governed. So,
Sure.
you know, we fit in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll speak to how we're governed, and then I'll let Tyson kind of speak to the governance model for this specific pot of money. Essentially how we're governed is we are on contract with Salt Lake County. We have a 3-year contract that has 2 renewable terms. So we are now in our 2nd year of our 2nd renewable term. And then come 2027, we'll have to go to RFP, which is very typical for us. We've been on contract for about 36 years with Salt Lake County and going through that process every year. Primarily, what we are tasked with is bringing overnight visitation into the county. And so that is what we're monitored on. That's what our key performance indicators are. Every year around kind of about starting this time, we start going into our strategic plan for the future year. And we have Salt Lake County representation. And I know this is city specifically, but I'll just talk about this is historically. So we have county participation as purview of that contract. And so starting in now we start building the plan for 2024. That goes through various stages of review, whether it be our board, and then ultimately gets to county council. It goes through the official mayoral budget recommendation, and then it gets ratified in December, of each year. And so that's how our purview is. Also, the way our dollars flow right now is the majority of our funds are through transient room tax, which is a tax on hotels. It's there's 4.25%. We get 2%, 2.25% goes to tourism related infrastructure that again is countywide, but at the discretion of the council, I would presume. So 2% comes to us. That money gets filtered through the tax commission and then to Salt Lake County, where they reconcile all of it. They take some administrative costs and then they reconcile all of it to make sure that we're not overspending on our projections. And then it gets distributed to us based on what our budget gets approved at. So they're always there to advise on, there's a lot of, with hotels especially, there's a lot of projections that need to be made and kind of some general presumptive questioning on, okay, how do we think the economy is going to do, et cetera. So we always try to estimate pretty low for our budget, and then we'll go through a mid-year budget adjustment if needed. But that's typically how our checks and balances work. And then I can have Tyson speak to the governance.
Mayor, Council, thanks for letting me be back. It's good to see you again. I feel a lot of pressure. Evan Bowerly, who is a West Valley resident, he made sure that I wouldn't mess this up for him. So I want to do this right for him. This partnership is unique. It's a new method that the legislature passed like we mentioned in March of 22. This method for raising funds is such that the hoteliers are self-imposing a fee on themselves, on their business, which then they can pass on to their guests if they like, but the obligation is theirs. As a result of that obligation, they are the ones tasked with managing the funds and approving how the funds are spent. Per the legislation, the state legislators wanted us to make sure we were coordinating with the councils and the different municipalities within the CTA footprint. One of the things we've learned as we've gone through this process is it's really important that we are coordinating with you and talking about the benefits that come from the visitor economy and keeping you in the loop and coordinating with you. So I know Nancy knows Clay and Evan very well, and they work together often. Kevin Bruder at the Maverick Center works with our team often, but I'm not so sure you guys hear a lot of the things that are going on. So one of the things we'll do a better job of is making sure that we're present and keeping you informed as to what's going on. The governance then, as mentioned, the hoteliers will have a committee of representatives that they will elect, and those will be the ones that will decide how the funds are spent.
But it's funds that they've collected, not that we've collected or given to them.
Correct. So that 2% assessment then would be collected and then pooled. And then they would decide what projects make the best sense. And per the legislation, they have the money has to be spent to increase hotel occupancy or average daily rate within the benefited properties. So as we kind of explained last time, and Caitlin had mentioned the LPGA event that was looking at Stonebridge, as part of that bid process, there might be improvements that have to be made at the golf course. The hoteliers might say, it's really important for us to get this event. We should spend some money to improve the course, or we should spend some money to make adjustments to certain areas so that we can land this event. So there's a wide range of how they might be able to spend the funds. But in the end, ultimately, there's two guiding principles, and that is it has to generate occupancy and ADR, and it has to have an equitable benefit.
And answered my question.
Perfect.
So the hoteliers who make these decisions, is this one committee for the whole county that makes that decision? Is it divided up into regions and each region makes their decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's actually two sets here. So each district, so the Chamber West footprint, which at this point it looks would be West Valley City and potentially Kearns, and they have no hotels. So Kearns, just because they have the Oval, and then they can directly benefit from the funds. But the hotels in West Valley City will be kind of the West footprint. They'll elect a committee to oversee the Chamber West footprint as part of the entire CTAA, which includes the Downtown Convention District, Chamber West, and the South Valley Chamber. Chamber West will have representation on the overall CTAA board. So people that currently would reside on the district committee would also sit on that district, the CTA wide footprint committee.
So the Chamber West Committee would control how 2% is spent.
So the 2% is an assessment on the hotel guests bill. So 2% of room revenue is the assessment. So the funds collected in the Chamber West footprint, which right now we're projecting about $1.2 million a year, they would control how those funds are spent. And they can be spent in a variety of buckets. There's four categories. There will be some administrative costs. There will be incentives and sales promotions. There will be marketing dollars that can be spent. And then there's also a fund for large, high-profile events. So those are the different buckets they can spend within. So it could be anything from updating the photos on the websites for all the hotels and taking video of some of the festivals going on in West Valley to help kind of promote the area. Could be specific incentives that went to go to like the LPGA event, or like the gymnastics tournaments that we host at the Maverick Center. There may be some costs that have to be covered. So there's a wide range of those things, but those are the four main buckets.
And I know a couple of years ago, fitness center hosted a very large softball tournament.
Yeah, that's Centennial Park. Yep, exactly.
So that would be.
That's another type of event that we could target and go after. Exactly. I thought we might have a weightlifting tournament going on here earlier. So, stuff like that.
Next door.
Yeah. Exactly.
But,
So if the Chamber West Committee has just over $1 million, what is the combined committee control and where do they get their money?
So the total projected funds, well, and there's a step to this, so it's hard to answer it because we're going through the process of having municipalities pass the resolution. So at the beginning, there were 9 municipalities and the projected revenue was $7.5 million total. If that helps. We're still waiting on to see who will pass, and we would of course want your support in West Valley.
That's all the groups, $7 million. And our Chamber West would get 1.
It's directly tied to the hotel revenue within the footprint. Yes, yeah. Yep,
It would be West Valley City specific.
correct. We keep saying Chamber West, but it really will be West Valley City. Yeah.
So West Jordan they're in Chamber West. They have a hotel.
They have 3 hotels and they elected not to proceed.
They're not going to proceed. Taylorsville has 1.
Has 1 hotel and they elected not to proceed.
Okay. So the person that really decides this is Chamber West, or is it this committee of hotel owners?
In terms of how the money is spent, yeah, it would be the hotels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they could keep it all to themselves, which they're raising it.
right. But
So there's not a guarantee that any of it will come to the city in any form to improve any of our.
right, they
They
can
could
elect.
just keep it all for themselves to improve their own hotels.
They would,
Marketing as
they would
such.
have to, yeah, they would have to demonstrate whatever they're spending the money on. It goes back to improve occupancy and ADR. So they do have some flexibility there, but where they can drive the most bang for their buck would be to incentivize things like the LPGA and those other tournaments.
And that would be this fund that would do it, not even the city.
Correct.
This would just be. the
This would be a
county
separate
run.
fund,
Yeah.
right? And you know, as mentioned, as we've gone through this, we've talked to councils and it becomes very apparent as you guys are talking about how to improve different places. These funds should be coordinated. So we recognize there is a need for us to be communicating with each of the councils to make sure we're understanding what your needs are and how we can best help.
Why can't the hoteliers that are doing this, that want us to do this, why can't they just join together, have an agreement to raise all of their prices by 2% and they can do what they want?
Right. So a couple of issues there. So they can't, if they get together and decide to raise prices, that's price fixes. They can't do that piece.
Okay.
So there's that. But also when we host large events right now, there are concessions and fees that go along with doing that. In the past, we have, as Visit Salt Lake, coordinated efforts to levy 50 cents per room night for convention rooms, and then you pay that back and hold those funds. But one of the challenges with that is there's not an equitable portion of that obligation. So the benefit goes to all the hotels, but only a few of the hotels pay into it. So this would be a way to make sure the entirety of the hotels are paying in.
Yeah, my concern is that they have, like you said, multiple workers, so they can put that money into, each workers they want. And some, if they put into maybe administration costs more than other, like advertising stuff, it's nobody oversee that. You know what I'm saying? We, West Valley City, we cannot oversee that.
Right.
So that.
Yeah, so the county council has the general oversight of that. Yeah.
Making sure my
It
notes.
seems like this would appeal to us because it would bring more visitors to West Valley City who would spend their dollars here in West Valley, visit West Valley. And that would benefit us overall, where our city doesn't see this particular tax money going through our accounts. There's other money that would benefit our city that the visitors spend.
Correct. Yes. So when visitors come, they do spend money in the restaurants, shopping, and various outlets, entertainment, transportation, those sorts of things. And that's exactly right.
Shop at Walmart during that tournament because it was right across the street from the tournament.
Yeah, if you were at the Walmart, then yes, you see some of that.
Couldn't get into IHOP for breakfast.
Yeah. So this is an economic opportunity. It's a business opportunity. That's how we see it. And one of the hard things, we're not politicians, so I'm learning as we go how to best communicate with you. But yes, this is exactly right. It's an economic opportunity. Sure.
But there is no saying that any of these events wouldn't come to our city without help.
Yeah, we're currently booking events, and as mentioned, we've hired Evan specifically to do this. We are limited on funds, so there are times where we have to forego opportunities. So this would help him to be able to have more tools to go and do that.
If they put the money towards that. He's not the ultimate decider where that
Right,
money
he
goes as
is,
well.
he is not, correct,
He got the hotel.
correct. So Melee with Western States, she was here. People like Melee would be the ones deciding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll move out of the way. How's that?
I just wanted to echo, so typically our hotels turn to us for group booking business. That's what we're focused on. So Evan is going after, he's going out nationwide and pitching West Valley City for the home of these events. And, to answer your question, could we get them without money? It's just hard because we have a lot of competition. There's a lot of people that want, Triple Crown softball or whatever it is. So we can provide great service. There's a multitude of factors, and when they choose a destination, one is the best package that they're going to get, and then of course it's room rates and airfare and what does all that look like. But we have to put a lot into every bid, and we court them for often a couple of years before we can land it. So one example right now, and this is more for the Sandy area, but we're courting a world champion horseshoe tournament that lasts for 2 weeks, and that will have spillover everywhere. But specifically in Sandy, they have a request where they need something like 10,000 pounds of Kentucky bluegrass soil brought in. That is our responsibility. Just so we have to sign, for the letter of intent, we have to say, okay, we're committing to this. Same thing goes for, things at Centennial Park or the Maverick Center. We are now getting a lot of gymnastics events because of the podium investment that they put in at the Maverick Center. So you kind of see that return on investment coming through. Yeah.
And it was money well spent by the city.
Absolutely. We got a huge gymnastics event next year. That's going to be, a huge draw. The other thing I want to say is that you are correct in that, the money is going back into the hotels, but it does support, all of the other services. But I think also statewide, when we look at annual household tax relief per citizen, it's at about $1,238 annually. So what we always try to focus on is what is that larger dollar that is generated through local and state sales tax that's coming back that you can use on your general fund expenditures.
Couple of questions. I don't know if you know this, are our hotels struggling to fill rooms, or do we have?
Yeah, so good question. So the West Valley City hotels, they are running about a 67% occupancy year round. So there's obviously peaks and valleys. I will say that during COVID, they did a lot better than the rest of the county holistically, because they had a lot of current government contracts in place, construction, et cetera. But 67% isn't nearly 100. And then you have certain weeks that might be 40 or 50, and some that are sold out. So I would say 67% to a general hotel owner is not great. Especially when they have, Western States, they've got, quite a few hotels in the same region. So they're not really diversifying their portfolio necessarily. They're all experiencing the same heightened weeks.
And another question, this might seem odd, but most of the people that will be paying this extra fee will be visitors. But in the unlikely event or a very infrequent event that a resident needs to stay local, there's no discernment on, are you a local resident and you have to pay this fee?
Unfortunately, there's not. We do know that the percentage, especially the percentage of your constituents staying in West Valley City, is going to be super, super low. But yeah, someone coming up from St. George or somewhere in another county, they would still have to pay the 2%. Yeah. And that's where we try to turn to the value of tourism generally, kind of rises all boats. And there's a lot of additional money that goes into tax savings and revenue generation. It's a big industry. So Salt Lake County alone, and now that granted, this is the whole county, accounts for about 46% of the state's total traveler spend. And I always think that's pretty shocking to people because when they think tourism, they always think, and what we hear of is the national parks being overcrowded and, you know, all that kind of thing. And a lot of it happens right here. And a lot of it's because sports and convention events. The other good thing about tourists, because I know a lot of locals and your constituents may have concerns over, you know, hiking trails that are already crowded, you know. Our research tells us that local hiking trails are about 80% locals. It's really not that many visitors that are able to navigate and find those trails in the first place. So I think that in terms of the quality of life piece, we look at this being a good balance because they're just not, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for more monetary opportunities.
Can I just mention in the next steps, just to maybe finish this off. So the county council has to pass an ordinance and they're voting on June 6th. They can only include municipalities who have passed a resolution. We're seeking a support on a resolution in West Valley City. Salt Lake City has passed the resolution in their municipality. Sandy City's passed in their municipality. Draper and South Jordan are in the process of going through that. Kearns is in the process of going through that. And then you guys are as well. So that's kind of where we're at with the municipalities. And we feel very confident that on June 6th, the councils will vote in favor of passing this and that it will be at least enacted in Salt Lake and Sandy. And we're hoping in those other areas as well.
So what does the resolution obligate the city to do?
So when you pass the resolution, it will allow your hotels to participate in that CTA fund to be able to collect the 2% and participate in governance collection and benefit of those funds. So if were you to not pass the resolution, then the CTA funds could not directly benefit the West Valley region. It could only go to the regions that are participating. Being included in the footprint, then obviously you have access to those funds to do the activities we've been talking about.
But the funds still aren't our control.
They're certainly not, yeah, they're not.
So we may never see a penny to improve anything. That is a possibility, correct?
Well, in terms of infrastructure, that's correct. But they have to drive room nights or ADR, which then brings more tax revenue. So you'll benefit one way or another.
With the sales tax.
Right.
And then the city's representation from either Chamber West or whichever, would it be a West Valley City resident or just somebody part of Chamber and who knows where they live?
So actually Chamber West does not sit on the committee. It would be hoteliers representative from West Valley.
Okay. So no one from the city or just a normal resident would be on there. It would only be the hoteliers. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we haven't really thought of the idea. I mean, the hotels themselves are electing the representatives. So, I mean, is it possible? I guess I wouldn't even really think about that, but it's certainly possible that it could be someone from the city if they feel like that's a good step.
Okay.
Just one more question. I think you mentioned earlier that 60% of the hotels had to agree to this. Do we know what percentage have agreed?
Yeah, so the county the county has told us that it's 60% of the projected revenue, 75% they're comfortable with, but there were lots of hotels that just opened that they couldn't project, so they put them at zero. So they said somewhere between 75 and 80% of the total revenue has approved.
But of the hotels in West Valley, 80% have approved joining this?
So within West Valley, we have 15 hotels in the footprint and 7 of them approved, just about 60% of the hotel inventory and about 60% of the projected revenue. Of the ones that did not approve, and I should say this, the other ones that didn't approve they didn't respond.
Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't an opposition, it was just they didn't respond.
Okay.
So if this does pass through our council and county council, will all of the hotels be required to collect that fee?
So hotels that are 35 rooms or more would be required. So Airbnb would be out, but anybody that's 35 rooms or higher.
And all of those hotels will have representation somehow in this.
They'll all be allowed to elect. So they'll all have a vote and a say as to who sits on the committee.
So how many of our 15 hotels have 35 or more? All
So
15?
all 15, yeah, yeah.
So 8 of those did not reply.
Yep.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, thank you so much for coming
Thank
out
you.
today.
Appreciate it.
So does anyone have any questions for staff concerning this? I mean, my question is, if we need the assistance at the Maverick Center or at our parks to increase our visibility or our golf courses, do you know, Mr. Pyle, if we have enough vacancy to even handle more tournaments or more events?
Parks, I know that's been a question before, and I think their vacancy or their availability is a lot less. At the Maverick Center, I know Mr. Bruder is in favor of this, and he says that there is available vacancy. And then you heard the gentleman speak to the hotels themselves.
And the golf courses, are we packed with tournaments on the golf courses, or could we handle more?
That's a good question. We actually have one of the highest tournament rates comparatively in the valley, but whether that leaves availability that we would want to pursue under this sort of a scenario, I'm not sure on that. I'd have to get back with you.
Okay.
I know we've had softball tournaments here that our staff has recruited, right? I mean, does our staff see this being a benefit to bringing those kind of tournaments here?
I'll let Nancy speak to that on the softball tournaments.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we have had some success bringing some larger tournaments in, but I do think that with evident things that there's bigger opportunities, they're reaching out, and visiting some of the larger areas of tournaments that we're not able to do. So I think that we would benefit from some of those as well.
Would those tournaments coming in limit our residents' participation in their own rec programs or leagues?
No, because we put the tournaments, we've scheduled those in a way on the weekends where typically we don't have conflict, especially depending on when the leagues play. They're typically earlier in the year, whereas you see the tournaments coming in a little bit later. So no, we would make sure that of course our residents are top priority over that, but we still have some availability that we could pursue some things.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess with the timing of the county, is there a desire to put this on the agenda for a vote or a resolution?
I've been thinking about it and I tried to balance the pros and cons. If we don't do this, how does that benefit the city? If we do this, how does that benefit the city? And likewise, how could they hurt the city?
What you come up with.
I'm not seeing a benefit for not doing it. I'm not seeing a downside for doing it. Am I missing something?
Well, somebody could book a hotel in Taylorsville or West Jordan or other places because it's $3 more.
Here. Oh, here it's
Here.
$3 more.
Yeah,
Okay.
so. And then we lose out on all of it.
You know, I think the laws of the economics are gonna say, hey, if we want to charge this fee and we want to compete with Taylorsville, then we'll have to lower ours. But because we're paying into this fee, we're getting a higher volume of people coming because West Valley's hosting these events. So West Valley hotels can afford to charge a little bit less.
Well, that's backwards of what they would do in a normal marketing plan. They would have their budget and use that for marketing instead of charging less to
Have somebody else.
justify somebody's dollars to come to West Valley than Taylorsville because we've implemented a tax.
But this allows 15 hotels to work together to market.
That is 7.
And
Yeah,
to
I'd
bring them here, most of the expenses. Just what I know. I go to Disneyland quite a bit. Everybody knows that. I stay off property. Because it's less expensive than on property. But I spend all my money on the property. Because what do I stay off property for? To go to sleep at night and I don't go out and do a lot of things at night in the area where I'm staying. So it would be the same with this. If they stayed in Taylorsville because it was a little cheaper, they would still be spending their money where the event is happening, which is West Valley.
Well, I'm glad you went to Disneyland before, not right now. Because right now I have problems out there.
We'll see what happens in June.
I took my kids to Disneyland and on the way home, what was their favorite part? We asked. It was swimming in the hotel pool. So we actually did stay in West Valley the next year at a hotel that had a pool and we didn't have to drive a long ways or spend a lot of money for tickets.
I would love to see more high profile things like the gymnastics come here. And I know the presentation I saw last year, they talked about just some of the application fees. Cities and venues need to come up with these fees and this could go towards that. So I think I would support the resolution to adopt this.
Support a resolution.
I also would support it.
And where's Jake when you need him?
Mayor, have you said which side you would go on? It seems like you're leaning towards no.
I'm leaning towards no, just because of the impact of on the residents. Not being able to use the facilities, the Maverick Center and the golf course is still iffy. The Maverick Center, I can see needing the help. But we've made improvements there on a staff level through the city that has helped with that. So I mean, as the city, we bought the platform for over the Maverick Center, the whatever they call it. And then we've, invested our own personnel and efforts into the Maverick Center to increase the events there. So as a city, I think we're doing well to take care of ourselves. Yeah, and the same thing, I don't know how many people really look at a 2 or 3% increase in your hotel with the price of gas. I don't know if you would stay closer, pay more for the hotel than stay further away. My concern is we're signing a resolution that we have no say over the outcome. The hotel people take care of it. The county takes care of it. We don't have anyone on that board. We have no one. So we don't know how much they're going to help, not help, and where those things are going to happen. And there's no guarantee. That's not what the resolution is going to give us, I don't think. And that's my kind of apprehension, is we're signing something that we have no control of.
Yeah, I have a similar idea like Mayor C has. We passed this resolution, seem like we are undermine city staff, and they have been doing very well in our city. We use the 2% tax to basically just, why they don't do it themselves, because they have to use 2% taxes in our city to do this, and they have multiple buckets. And they can put some money into the bucket, they see fit, maybe administration cost, and nobody can oversee that. We have no control over this money, and we use that power to increase the 2% tax for the people in the city and also people around, not outside of Union. In this, I don't like that idea. Be honest with you, they could do it by themselves.
We have Jake that's not here, and
Right.
it takes four of us
Right.
to
Right.
decide this.
Yeah.
I recommend that we put this on our study meeting agenda for next week, because it has to be done in 2 weeks, it seems like to me. And so if Jake is in favor and we have four, then we'd have it on our study meeting and could then put it on our regular meeting in 2 weeks. If at the study meeting next week, it turns out that we don't have four, then we scratch it from the regular meeting agenda for the following week.
Will we be able to scratch it, or we'd have to vote to deny it?
We'd be able to, just because it's not a public notice, so if,
Okay,
yeah, we should.
it's not a public hearing.
Right, it's not a public hearing.
And I guess I have one more thing, if you don't mind, have one of the presenters come up and just answer one question for me. So one of the sticking points for me is we have 15 hotels. 7 agree to this, but the other 8 are going to be forced to do it. All 15 have to participate. So that's my question. Is that true or false? If someone would come to the mic and tell me if we're putting something on unwilling.
That is true.
You would be committing all 15 to this program,
Correct,
whether they wanted to be part of it or not.
correct.
Off the recommendation of one hotel owner that said, we want to do this, but 8
No.
or 7 have said, but only one came to the meeting is all I'm saying.
we brought
Yeah.
Yeah, we just brought one to not inundate, but I guess the other consideration is that we reached out several times. The problem is kind of like, your committee that you were talking about earlier, is that you've got a lot of absentee owners that don't live here. And so quite frankly, it's just their business interest that lies here. And so we reached out, we went to every property, 3 times in person and just didn't get a response.
Right.
I will say that a lot of these property owners are very familiar with this concept. It's in over 200 cities nationwide. So a lot of the GMs, general managers and directors that we talked to were like, oh yeah, we've seen this in other communities. It's really beneficial. And then I will just, if I can, just speak to the 2%. It still means that when we look at our comp set, it's still a really low tax bracket that we're in. And we did a study, and 98% of people don't make their decisions based on the tax, what they see on the end of the hotel bill.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, man.
So
So another way to look at that is that, yeah, 7 out of 15 said we're in favor. But 100% of the people that responded said they were in favor.
Well, here, I gotta ask this to Eric Bunderson. Eric,
Yes.
okay, 7 out of 15, if we vote, the resolution passed, 8 owners, they have a right to sue for this because we force them to say yes in this case. They can,
Because the county will be passing this tax and then we'll be supporting it through the city. I don't think they'd have a very good chance of prevailing in a lawsuit. I think.
but they have a right to sue us.
But you can sue anybody for anything.
Maybe
clarify
it's not,
Okay, because it's not
No.
roommates.
that's okay. Case, continue, Eric.
That, I think it was done.
Okay, we're good with just.
Yeah, I think based on what I understand, I haven't read the resolution. But based on what I understand, I don't think that the 8 hotels would be in a very good position to prevail
Right, they don't prevail, but they have a right to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you mind just reading through it and giving us an opinion before the weekend?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't mind.
Okay, thank you. I know, it's always, I look at you all sideways. Okay. All right, did anyone else, any of the council have questions?
So are we okay to put that on the study meeting agenda for next week?
I think we got clear from Eric Bonderson first, and then we can go from there. I want to do it right.
So let's have Eric give an opinion. And then if his opinion, well, that's kind of hard. Let's just, I can vote for putting it on the study session next week. And then it may or may not go to the regular. We'll just know that. Okay, I am not comfortable with forcing 8 hotels to do something against their will, whether or not they had the opportunity to respond or not.
You know, I stay off property, but I still pay the resort fee with my hotel bill.
Probably
So
That's true.
it's just that the other one starts at a higher fee and then has the resort fee on top of it.
Yeah.
So I still pay the resort fee. And, you know, it's not a burden. And this wouldn't be a burden on those hotels either. They charge resort fees all the time. Most of the hotels are chains. And every other hotel in their chain is charging a resort fee somewhere, I'm sure.
And when we pass a resolution that goes before the voters, and the voters vote on a tax increase. It's the majority of those who voted that decides whether or not that goes through.
Yeah.
So using that as the metric, we have 100% support of this, of the people that are going to be paying this tax.
Let me go back to the point Don just made earlier about you talking about Disneyland, you're talking about you paying money to, a hotel room. But here we're talking about we force someone to do, they don't want to do. There's a difference.
We don't know they don't want to do it. They didn't
Oh,
respond.
yeah. They don't respond, but then they don't want to show up, they don't want to be there, so we don't know. They have a right to do something about this.
And if
And
they
they
don't
had-
charge
they've had
resort
opportunities.
fees in any of their hotels in their chain, then I'd believe that.
Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll move on to our presentation by Ms. Day for the summer events.
All right, well, I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to go through this fairly quick, but I know you probably all had a chance to maybe look through it a little bit, so we'll jump right in. The overview, so this basically talks, main reason I have this is the events that you're going to see on here are kind of the special events that we do throughout the summer. We have all of our ongoing swim lessons, youth soccer, golf leagues, that kind of stuff. So a lot of these other things you'll see in the presentation. So I've broken it down, as you can see, by each month that we have. We're already into May. I'm not going to read through the list. On each of the months, I've got the golf clinics up at the top right, just a little easier to kind of fit it all in. Community First Friday, I'm just going to highlight a couple things in each slide. Community First Friday is something that we just started this year. It's in the evening time at the Cultural Celebration Center. And for example, we just had the digital exhibit and film screening, of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And you can see on the bottom, impromptu drum kind of activity that happened right after that staff was not aware of. So you can kind of see that's 20 seconds. I thought I could stop it, but I can't. But 20 seconds of that. They had their stuff and they just set it up and started doing it. And it was great. So the things that we're doing are really beneficial to the community and to the different diversity there. And our 20 seconds should be about done. There we go. Mother's Day celebration is this Sunday. I just wanted to mention, we got a lot of people signed up, but there's still some openings. If any of you are interested in that, that's at Stonebridge Golf Course. That's down on the 14th. And
One of the best brunches you'll ever have.
it is very good, isn't it? Yes, it is very good. We should have good weather. So Hump Day Buffet, just real quick, we are changing it up a little bit this year. So each month we have kind of a showcase of different cultures and different things. We have the live entertainment, we've got prizes, activities, all kinds of things. And then you'll see a little further down the pop-up play. Those are on different weeks. And so that's once a month as well. Staff will come out. They'll be running a lot of activities on kind of the west end of the promenade. And then the other weeks, we're going to be doing chalk art, a couple little activities like that, but it's more of a family picnic kind of theme. So that's what you'll see this year. For those types of things, you can see various tree plantings, and we get more of those throughout the summer, and we'll be sure and keep you informed on that. I just got notice of another one that's on the 25th this month as well that's not on here. So we have all of that going. Centennial Outdoor Pool opening, so you can certainly see all of the different things happening in the month of May. And then we can go into June here. June's kind of a busy month. The things that I'll point out there, West Fest obviously is a big one, the 15th through the 18th. Juneteenth event at the Cultural Center is new this year. World's largest swimming lesson. Councilman Norfolk, I heard you talk about your kids in the pool and things. And of course, we know that, and you probably already are aware that drowning is the #1 cause of death for children ages 1 through 4, and the #2 leading cause of death for ages 5 through 14. And yes.
So you took the swim lessons to resident or community pools, correct?
We did. We had a grant a few years ago to apartments.
Yeah.
It was so successful, and they really, really appreciated it. And we're trying to get more grant dollars to bring that back, and even go, some of the mobile home parks have small pools and take it there. That was able to offset the cost of the staffing. And so that was fantastic, because lower income, minority populations, autistic children, they're all at higher risk of drowning. And they find that 88%, it would be reduced by 88% if between the ages of 1 and 4, there was more formal swim lessons. So that was really an important thing for us to do that. So with this world's largest, we've been doing it since the inception in 2010, and they're in over 50 different countries. So it's kind of a nice thing. And so it's free for the community to come out, and it's at the outdoor pool, and then they can stay and swim afterwards as well. And then of course, the end of the month, we've got that week of Harmon Camp Wrinkle. So again, farmers market starts on the 22nd. We're excited about that. And July is National Parks and Recreation Month. So the first week we're doing our Family Week events. You probably remember that from last year. We've got a variety of events through the week. And if you want more information on some of these, I can send some of the flyers that we've produced or give you a little bit more detail on that. We've got, again, all of the ongoing things, our rock crawler course that will be open at Centennial Park. We've got demos going on there. Boy, just all kinds of stuff happening during that month. The senior countywide cornhole tournament is the first one that has ever existed in the county. So we're excited to be able to host that with our senior center. And now we're in August, and it starts slowing down a little bit. School goes back in session, and but you can still see some of the various activities that are going on for that month. And September slows down even more as we get into, again, school back in session. So just a couple other quick slides, and then I will be finished. We do a calendar like you see here on the right for our Harmon Senior Recreation Center each month. So you can see all of the different regular activities that they do ongoing. But of course, there's always the field trips, book club, Camp Wrinkle. We also have, like in August, they're going to the Payson Salmon Days dinner. They're touring one of the temples. So they do a variety of different field trips and things for that. And I had this 1-minute video, but I can skip that because I think you guys have seen that before. I sent it on a weekly update after Easter. It's kind of fun. So West Fest, we have, again, we're excited for everything going on. We've got the carnival, the booths, entertainment that's going on. The movie in the park will be Thursday night, since we have the fireworks Friday and Saturday. Parade, of course, we'll be inviting all of you to participate in that again this year. And then the activities, the fun run, skate competition, pickleball tournament, which was a huge hit last year, and some of the other things there going on during West Fest week. And then, of course, the farmers market that will run through October 5th. And that was a huge success last year, and we're excited for even more things for the farmers market. And with that, are there any questions? Yes.
The farmer's market, yeah, are you seeing an increase in vendors?
Yeah, as of yet for this summer, I have not, but I know from what I've been told is there is more interest, and there was a lot of interest towards the tail end of last year. People wanting to come back and reaching out to other people that want to participate. So I anticipate we will see more. And as I get a list of maybe some of the vendors coming, I'll be happy to share that. Yes.
I don't remember. I think Scott or maybe somebody else in our council. Last time they asked about, you have a couple of events around or nearby, basically it's close to Best West. Yeah, so like car show or something, is that right?
Oh, during West Fest?
Yeah, before, about a week or 2 weeks before. And I remember one of the council members here, they just like, why don't we put together in one show? It's a Best West.
And do it during West Fest? Is
Right.
that what you're asking?
West.
Yes, yes. And we've looked into that a few times. And as you all probably know, the biggest challenge we have is with parking and with space. And because of the carnival taking up a large chunk and the booths and that kind of thing. A few years ago, we did do one that was a couple weeks later in July. And that's something that we could try to bring back. But West Fest is pretty packed at Centennial. Yes, but great idea.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes. Are you gonna wear a cowboy hat?
I don't know what the float is. If they tell me to wear a cowboy hat again, I'll wear a cowboy hat again. Right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, pouring the fire department tactical vehicle, we're gonna wait and do that after we adjourn so that people can not have to come back and adjourn. We can do that at your pleasure. So the council calendar, did anybody have any concerns? Okay, potential future agenda items? Yes.
Some of us received an email from a resident who applied for a business license. He has a woodworking hobby in his house, in his garage or a workshop behind his house. And once. Oh, okay. I didn't see Steve's.
I didn't see Steve's response either.
I forwarded Steve when I got it. He's answered him. Told him there are some ways to get around it with conditional use permits and things like that. It'll take some effort on his part, as well as our part.
So do you want to look at that response? And if it's not adequate, we can deal with it next week? Or do
Okay.
you want it on as a communication item next week?
I can look at that response.
Okay,
And then
If it's
maybe bring
satisfactory.
it up next week.
okay. Did you, was Steve's,
The whole council.
was Mr. Pastrick's response to the whole council or just to you? Yeah,
We should send the
He'll send it to the
email
whole
thread
council
to
now.
the whole council.
all right, let's do that. Thank you, Lars, for bringing that up.
Or take care of things as they come up.
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of items. The first number one is $44 million. I just want to kind of like, I want to learn from that one, maybe clarification or elaboration. But can you put it under communication and maybe explain it to us a little bit? I just heard that last time over
The
the
Maverick
shoulder.
Center financing,
Yeah,
Oh, the cultural
Oh,
center.
the cultural center, yeah,
Yeah.
cultural center
Cultural center.
financing.
yeah. Second item is the new form of government. I want to bring it up again. See how we can talk and discuss about
Put that on a communication again, or
Yeah,
do you want to
yeah.
put it on as a resolution?
that resolution.
We voted not to
I
do a
think we had
resolution.
4 that said no. on
Okay,
that.
put in a communication this time. Yeah. and then we can
So there
study
was
about-
4 that said no to putting it on the ballot, or the resolution, yeah.
I don't think we should put it on the communication item.
How come?
I think we
Because
discussed
4
it.
of us said, no, we didn't want the resolution on
With
the,
the- that's a
to
one
putting
month
it
ago.
on the ballot. So now we have to wait until
How long, what the policy for this is a 1 month, 2 months, a 1 year or 2 years?
I think you need 4 people.
I know, I mean, the.
To put it back on a
Put it back into the
communication? Is that what you're
communication, how
saying?
long?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's been our practice, hasn't it been?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
To make it an agenda item?
But last time, Don, he brought it up about the stuff about, the city, what is that about city, about the marketing? And it's only one Don, he asked us to do that and
Oh,
basically.
for the puzzle?
Your puzzle,
Okay.
see right there,
but I had the support of the rest of the council.
well, I didn't hear that.
Well, it wouldn't have got on
Oh, I didn't hear that.
gone any farther than my asking if it hadn't been supported.
Personally, I didn't hear that.
One item I'd like for future agenda, I mean, obviously, form of government, but there's not enough of us right now. But, to review and approve the employee policy manual, that's one of our proposed strategic discussion items.
Oh, for the things that have been added without council
The
approval?
Executive orders and the policy.
Okay. To bring that forward to communication? So that
Well,
we can discuss what was put in without council approval?
I think, whatever you want to do, I think we need to discuss and then have council approval of whatever we decide. So
Okay.
it's-
So a review of how much time?
There's
Like
quite a-
since-
There's quite a few, well, yeah, I
Or
don't know,
just any executive order in the last whatever?
any executive order, I think. I mean, obviously, if it's an executive order, council hasn't approved it. so-
It has not gone through council.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the beginning of time, not like a 5-year or a 10-year? Sorry, just trying to make it easy.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if we need to, that's one of our jobs is to approve that. Then if it's an executive order, we need to review and approve.
Okay.
That's right.
Mayor, I want to circle back about the form of government. I want to put that into a discussion for under communication. Just we talk about, discuss about, see how things going. Not like vote for them.
Not have a resolution?
Yeah.
So normally, and that is probably true, that we've just had, for communication, I've asked for things to be put on communication without 4 people. But we can't do a resolution, put a resolution on without 4 people.
Right, just no, just
Does that sound about like what we've done in the past? Communication's been one thing and
I think
resolution
Wayne
has
just
been.
unmuted his.
Ma'am, what we try to do policy wise, even on the communications items, is to get majority support of the council. It has happened, you're right, that 1 or 2 people, like in the middle of the week or on an emergency basis or something, have asked for communications discussion, but in the main, and as practice, the practice has been for majority of the council to bring something for communications. That makes it clearer for staff and for council and for preparation.
Okay. So I don't remember us having that policy when we would have study session items just put on communication. Mayor would just have things that were brought up and then we'd just put them on communication, not for approving it.
I think that this is a different situation where we're meeting together and trying to decide what are potential future agenda items,
Mhm.
whether it's a resolution or a communication. And if And if 4 people are saying, no, we don't need to have that on the agenda, I think that's enough to decide whether or not it should be on the agenda. I mean, we can look at Robert's Rules of Order and what that says about it, because that's the document that we go by, right?
Do you have that one memorized?
Quite a thing.
She's like, nope.
Lars, I know we didn't have 4 to put it in a resolution. But that's different than having 4 talk about it, and it's communication.
So I guess we should ask, is there 4 that want a communication item for form of government on communication next week?
If that's the rule we have to follow, that hasn't always been followed, it sounds like. But
No, because I don't think the puzzle one was like that either, so.
But I don't think there was 4 people in these other instances that said, no, I don't want that on the agenda.
So are there 4 people today that want the form of government on the communication next week? That's, I guess, my question. That would be the appropriate, instead of just saying, no, you can't bring it up.
Yeah, Robert's rules more govern actual motions, and in the study meeting, we don't do that, so it's
Okay.
just kind of a yes
Okay.
or.
So I would be fine with putting it back on communication, get more clarification.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm good. Just talk about it.
I guess I'm not opposed to putting it on communication. I don't know that much has changed since then, when we last spoke about it. I am planning a, I guess you want to call it a town hall meeting within my district. I talked to Wayne about using a city facility to bring in residents, because I've been told that there's more residents that would like to put this on the ballot, and I haven't heard that feedback yet, but I'm willing to open it up and invite more residents or go speak to more residents. So I am in the process of that. I recognize we're coming up against some deadlines, but I am soliciting more feedback from residents in my district to see if there's an appetite to put that on the ballot. So I'm not opposed to bringing it up in a communication, but at this moment, I don't have anything to add different from the last time we discussed.
So I'll take that as we'll put it on communication next week.
The only thing I've had is feedback from residents that have come up to me and said, don't do it.
And I've had the opposite. So
So have I.
Yeah.
Listen,
in the fitness center even, I've had 2 people come to me in the fitness center and be like, "Do it."
well, you know, putting it on, passing the resolution to put it on the ballot gives the residents 2 opportunities to come to a public hearing and discuss it, and then everybody hears that discussion instead of one council member having a town hall. This way, all the residents that want to come and participate may in that public hearing. So by not having it, you're denying them that, so.
May I say something?
Yeah,
So see my phone right here? I got at the fee. And I've been using it for everything, about the pro and con, about the odds, form of government, and anything about my phone. It's free. That's with free. 20 years ago, maybe it's hard to find an iPhone, but today it's everywhere. Everyone has it. Free. I use it free. Yeah, and I use my phone for everything. I can do it in like my room, everywhere I can do it. I mean, my phone. It's the thing at town hall, just only to be honest with you, that we're trying to say something, but actually people, they can find everything in here in the phone, except smartphone. They can study it. Yeah, they can study everything here. And if we're thinking about people out there, they don't know anything about this, we undermine them. It's like see the Scott and Will right here. They knew, they studied really hard. They came here, basically they well prepared. Well prepared. And we say we above them, we say that we know things and they don't know things, I think that's, is probably we're prideful people. We undermine the city, undermine this city cannot have a full-time mayor. And see what could tell off, to be honest, but you pick up the phone, talk to elected official in this county, people, they talk about our mayor here. See the part-time mayor, but see what could tell up to be, right now, it's people, you can pick up the phone, you can ask people, the full-time mayor. Yeah, I think just, that's my opinion, okay?
Well, and we can discuss
Yeah,
this
they
next
talked
week on
about,
the
yeah,
next week's communication, so we'll add that. The employee manual, revisiting that. Is there enough that want that on the communication?
On our list of proposed strategic discussion.
So let's, it still sounds like I have to have 4 to say, yes, let's put it
Yeah, we
on.
gotta be clear.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, all right, that's on there. Okay, you got those two? Anything else?
Yeah, I
Okay.
did have one
Oh.
item. So I know that members of the council have been contacted by the county representative. It's the new at-large member. I just wanted to see if the council had any direction for me on what to do with that.
What's,
Yes, do you want me to invite her or schedule anything?
So who is the person you're speaking of?
It
Suzanne.
Is it Suzanne?
Suzanne, yes.
So I've already arranged to have a one-on-one with her.
And she had just asked us to see if she can meet with the entire council
Right?
as well. So,
Yeah, I think that would be a personal council decision if you want to go in pairs or meet with her one-on-one. I don't know that we want to have it in a meeting. Does anybody want it in this meeting? Or would you prefer to do it in pairs or one-on-one with her?
Just selfishly, it would be easier in this meeting. timeline.
Yeah, but we don't normally
Yeah.
have those introduction one-on-ones, so that's where it's a little awkward.
She's definitely welcome to come to our regular meeting and speak in public comment.
That's true too. That's an opportunity for her. Okay. And then I think all the council members are more than welcome to just ask you or Angel to schedule something.
okay. I will relay that.
Okay. All right, council reports. I went to the Central Granger event on my hometown event Friday night. Very, very well attended. The food was good, the entertainment was good, all the information for new people taking the opportunities that are given out at that CRC was really nice. They displayed all the information very well and had plenty of people there to explain it. So I thought it was a very good event put on by my hometown again. So kudos to them. Sorry, I may have cut you off.
You're
Did you have
fine,
something?
you're fine. I met with Mark Rupp and
Mhm.
the directors of my hometown, and that was great. But I just had a question. I think on the calendar, it says the recital on Thursday is 6, 7, and 8. Is there 3 recitals? Do we know? or is it
Probably
just-
3 different kinds,
Just
like maybe the piano and then guitar and maybe the play. I think there's going to be 3
3
different.
different ones?
That was my understanding as well, but I can clarify if you'd
Yeah, do
like
you
to
mind?
make sure, absolutely.
Because if you can make it
I
to
can
part of
make it
it.
some of it. I just can't make it all. So.
Okay. Anybody else got anything fun? Okay. Strategic discussion, we kind of took that with the potential future agenda items. Do we have a need for a closed session? Not seeing a yes from anybody. So I'll take a motion to adjourn and then the tactical the fire department is out front. Feel free to go roam around and visit and then leave at your pleasure.
Motion to adjourn.
Everyone in favor, please say aye.
I-
Any opposed? Nope, and we stand adjourned.